Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my quarter two wrap up or my halfway point check-in in terms of the challenges that I've made this year and also just looking at the stats of the books that I've read so far this year. I did a quarter one check-in which also included some just like general overview in terms of the books that I've read in the past. So if you're interested in like previous statistics, you can watch that video. I'll have a link for that down below if you're interested. That will give you some background information. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about my stats for this year so far. So in terms of books that I've read so far this year, I've technically read 38 books. Of course, this includes graphic novels, but it doesn't include single issues of comic books. So like the single issues of Lumberjanes, for example, I haven't included in my statistics because it feels weird including that as an entire book when it takes like all of 15 minutes to read. But I'm doing just fine in terms of the 50 book challenge. I wasn't really worried about that because I know that I can reach 50 books before the end of the year, but I just put it at 50 books because it's easy and I don't want to stress out about it, so I'm not really worried about that. In terms of Mount TBR, Mount TBR, by the way, is just a challenge where you push yourself to read some of your older books. So you set a number of books that you want to read that you purchased before January 1st of the year. I made it my challenge to read 36, which means I would have to read about 3 older books every month, and I was doing great with this until June when I read 0 old books. I read everything like brand new. They were all brand new releases nearly, or books that I bought like that month or just maybe like a month before. So none of my books in June counted, which is why I'm now behind on Mount TBR. So I'm going to be working really hard in July and August to sort of make that more of a priority again and to just buy less new releases so I'm not as tempted by them. Now for some stats on the authors of the books that I've read so far this year. In terms of gender, 62% of the authors that I've read so far this year are females, which I was slightly surprised at, but I will talk more about that in a second when I bring up another statistic. And also one of my big New Year's resolutions was to read more books by people who were not white. So far this year, 32% of the books that I've read so far this year have been written by non-white authors, which is great, seeing as how in previous years I was had less than 10%. So I'm really happy with that statistic so far. Of course, I could always increase it if I really wanted to, but I'm kind of happy with the way things are going right now. I kind of wanted 25% to be my minimum, so the fact that I'm at 30-something% is really great. Now, in terms of the genres of the books that I have been reading, this is always a statistic that could vary quite a bit because certain books could fit into multiple genres depending on how you want to categorize them. So obviously this isn't like a perfect breakdown because there were a lot of like YA books that could potentially be like historical fiction and things like that, but I just wanted to keep it relatively simple. So my dominating genres are just general fiction, which I basically just included as contemporary fiction and literary fiction, and then the other one is YA, which also again has some subgenres in it, which I just didn't feel like breaking it down even further than that. Some genres that I've been reading more of include graphic novels, which is a significantly larger piece of the pie this year than it has been in previous years, mostly because I usually only read like 1 or 2 graphic novels a year, and I've read like 1 a month so far this year. Also, I've been trying to make nonfiction more of a priority with at least 1 nonfiction read a month. I haven't been quite hitting that goal. I think I've read 4 so far this year when I should be at 6, but still I'm pretty happy with it. One thing that you can also see is that my classics slice of the pie is rather small. I think this year I've only included 1 book as a classic book, and even that was kind of pushing it a little bit, but I figured it would kind of count just so it wasn't 0. And I think that correlates with my gender and race breakdown, with me reading more female authors and with me reading more non-white authors or seeking out more non-white authors. It means I'm looking less and less at classics because classics tend to be white men. But I do miss that genre a little bit. I can feel myself wanting to read some classics. I have a very strong feeling I'm going to be reading some this month for sure. Technically I read The Bluest Eye, which might be considered a modern classic, and I do usually consider modern classics in my classic slice. But I have some other books that I have coming up that I'm feeling myself being pulled towards, but I won't announce them on here because if I don't read them then I feel bad, but I have a very good feeling I'm going to be reading more classics coming up soon. Some other New Year's resolutions that I had for myself was to reduce my TBR pile. My goal was to get my unread books pile to be under 100, and I am actually moving in the right direction. I have been buying a significant amount of books, but I've also been reading a lot of books this year, so my pile has gone down. I think I started at around 120, and right now I'm at about 110. So I'm moving in the right direction. I'm still buying books, but I'm not buying them as fast or as like in giant bulks that I used to. And then my final New Year's resolution goal for the year sort of thing was to read some presidential biographies. I haven't read any yet, which has been for a reason. Partially, I wanted to read a couple other books that I had first. I wanted to read Mayflower by Daniel Philbrick, which I read earlier this year already, so I've knocked that one out. And I wanted to read 1776 by David McCullough. I don't know how to say his name because I own the book and I'm pretty sure I read it, but I don't remember it really, so I kind of wanted to reread it and then jump into the presidential biographies, but I kind of really need to get moving on that because we're already halfway through the year and I haven't read any yet, and presidential biographies are long. So hopefully I will get 1776 read relatively soon, and I will get at least one presidential biography. I mean, I was hoping for 2 to 3, but one would be great at this point. So yeah, that's my little update slash check-in in terms of the books that I've been reading so far and my New Year's resolutions that I made at the beginning of the year. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know how you guys are doing so far this year, if you are still on track for your goals, if you're ahead of schedule, if you've completely forgotten about them. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.